When the night becomes silent, the mind often begins its loudest work. The room grows quiet, the body asks for rest. But inside, a hidden door opens. Thoughts that stayed buried during the day begin to rise. A sentence from the past returns. A fear about tomorrow appears. A mistake you thought you had forgotten becomes heavy again. The body is lying still, but the mind keeps moving from one place to another, as if sleep is a gate it cannot enter. This is where many people begin to fight themselves. They try to push thoughts away. They try to force silence. They become angry at the mind for not obeying. But the more they fight, the stronger the thoughts become. Tonight, this video is not about forcing your mind to become empty. It is about learning a deeper and calmer way. It is about letting thoughts pass without holding them, without chasing them, and without turning them into your whole identity. The Dhammapada, one of the most quietly powerful collections of ancient wisdom, begins with the mind for a reason. Long before modern science studied stress, sleep, and overthinking, these old teachings noticed something simple but powerful. The mind shapes the way we experience the world. It can turn a small worry into a storm. It can turn one memory into a whole night of pain. It can pull the body away from rest, even when nothing is happening outside. But the Dhammapada does not describe the mind as evil. It describes the mind as restless, subtle, difficult to hold, and yet capable of being trained. That is the hidden lesson. Your thoughts are not the enemy. The danger begins when every thought becomes a command. A worry appears, and you follow it. A regret appears, and you feed it. A fear appears, and you believe it before questioning it. Slowly, the night becomes less like rest and more like a battlefield. In this video, you will learn how to see thoughts differently before sleep. You will understand why the mind becomes active in silence, why fighting thoughts often makes them stronger, and why peace begins when you stop arguing with what appears inside you. Stay with this video until the end, because the final lesson is the most important one. There is a quiet moment when you realize that not every thought needs your attention. Not every memory needs your pain. Not every fear needs a response tonight. Some thoughts are only visitors. They arrive, they move, they fade when you stop holding them. And when this becomes clear, sleep no longer feels like something you must force. It becomes something you slowly allow. So let this be a gentle guide into the night. Let it help your mind loosen its grip. Let it remind you that the unfinished things can wait until morning. Welcome to our channel. If you want more calm, deep, and peaceful reflections like this, subscribe now and let tonight be the beginning of a softer relationship with your own mind. The mind moves before the body knows it has moved. This is one of the quiet truths hidden at the beginning of the Dhammapada. It does not begin with the world. It does not begin with other people. It does not begin with the things that happen around us. It begins with the mind because, in a very deep way, everything we feel first passes through the mind. Before the face becomes tense, the mind has already touched a thought. Before the chest feels heavy, the mind has already believed a story. Before the body turns from one side to the other in bed, the mind has already opened a door that was closed during the day. This is why night can feel so powerful. During the day, noise covers the mind. Work covers it. People cover it. Messages cover it. Small duties cover it. But when the room becomes quiet, the mind no longer has anything outside to chase. Then it begins to turn inward. It returns to old places. It walks through old conversations. It pulls out a sentence someone spoke long ago. It brings back a mistake that has already passed. It touches tomorrow before tomorrow has arrived. And suddenly the body is in bed, but the mind is somewhere else. This is how sleep begins to disappear. Not all at once, not loudly, not like a door being slammed. It disappears slowly, through one thought, then another thought, then another thought. A person does not usually lose sleep because one thought appears. One thought by itself is light. One thought can come and go. But the mind has a habit of joining thoughts together. One small worry pulls another worry. One memory pulls another memory. One question pulls another question. Then the mind begins to create a chain. It says, what if this happens? Then it says, why did that happen? Then it says, what will they think? Then it says, what if tomorrow goes wrong? Then it says, why did I not do better? Before you notice it, you are no longer lying in a quiet room. You are inside a story. You are inside a chain of thoughts that feels real because the mind is giving it energy. This is why the first step toward peace is not to destroy the mind. It is not to hate the mind. It is not to become angry because thoughts are appearing. The first step is simply to notice. Notice when one thought becomes two. Notice when a memory becomes a mood. Notice when a worry becomes a whole future. Notice when the mind begins to pull you away from the present moment and into a place that does not need you tonight. This kind of noticing is gentle. It does not shout at the mind. It does not punish the mind. It simply sees what is happening. And that simple seeing can begin to loosen the chain. The Dhammapada speaks about the mind because the mind is often the first place where suffering begins. A person may be safe in their room, but the mind can show them danger. A person may be lying on a soft bed, but the mind can carry them back into pain. A person may be alone in silence, but the mind can fill the silence with voices from the past. This does not mean the mind is broken. It means the mind is powerful. It means the mind is active. It means the mind can travel faster than the body. The body can only be in one place, but the mind can visit many places in one night. It can go back 10 years. It can move into next week. It can enter a conversation that never happened. It can repeat a moment that can no longer be changed. This is why the mind must be understood with care. If you do not notice its movement, you may believe every place it takes you is real. You may believe every thought is a message. You may believe every fear is a warning. You may believe every regret is proof that you are not enough. But not every thought is truth. Not every mental image is a signal. Not every worry deserves your whole night. Some thoughts are only movements. Some memories are only echoes. Some fears are only the mind trying to protect you in the wrong moment. When you begin to see this, something inside you becomes softer. You stop treating every thought like an emergency. You stop running after every worry. You stop opening every door the mind places in front of you. This is where the practice begins. You lie down. The first thought comes. Maybe it is about tomorrow. Maybe it is about someone who hurt you. Maybe it is about money, family, work, health, age, regret, or a choice you wish you had made differently. At first, the thought feels important. It calls for your attention. It wants you to follow it. It wants you to solve it right now. But instead of following it, you notice it. You quietly see that a thought has appeared. You do not need to push it away. You do not need to fight it. You do not need to build a whole story around it. You simply notice, a thought is here. The mind has moved. This small moment of awareness matters more than people think. Because once you notice the thought, you are no longer completely inside it. You are watching it. You are aware of it. There is a little space between you and the movement of the mind, and in that space, peace becomes possible. Not perfect peace, not instant silence, but a small opening, a small breath, a small return. The mind may still move, but now you can see it moving. And seeing is the beginning of freedom. But noticing the mind is not the same as controlling it. This is where many people become tired. They begin to notice their thoughts, and then they expect the thoughts to stop. They think, if I am aware, why is my mind still active? If I understand this, why am I still thinking? If I want peace, why does the mind not obey? But the mind does not become calm only because we command it. The mind is not a machine that turns off because we press a button. It is more like water that keeps moving after it has been disturbed. It takes time to settle. It needs gentleness. It needs patience. It needs steady attention. Many people lie down at night and try to force the mind into silence. They say, stop thinking, stop worrying, stop remembering, stop feeling. But force often creates more tension. The harder a person tries to stop thinking, the more thinking becomes the center of attention. The mind hears the command and becomes even more alert. It begins to check whether thinking has stopped. And that checking becomes another thought. Then frustration comes. Why am I still awake? Why can I not sleep? Why is my mind like this? Now the person is not only thinking, they are fighting the fact that they are thinking. This is how the night becomes heavier. The problem is no longer just the thought. The problem becomes the struggle against the thought. This is why the deeper lesson is not suppression. It is observation. You do not need to stop every thought before you are allowed to rest. You do not need a perfectly empty mind before sleep can come. You do not need to win a battle against every memory, worry, and feeling. A thought can appear without needing an answer. A memory can rise without needing a reaction. A worry can pass through without becoming a decision. This is simple, but it is not always easy. The mind has been trained for years to follow every strong feeling. When fear comes, it runs. When regret comes, it explains. When sadness comes, it becomes heavy. When worry comes, it tries to solve everything. But before sleep, this habit can become painful. Night is not the best place to solve every problem. Night is not the best place to judge your whole life. Night is not the best place to replay every mistake. The tired mind is not always a wise judge. The sleepy mind often makes small things feel final. It makes tomorrow feel larger than it is. It makes the past feel closer than it is. It makes the heart believe it must carry everything at once. This is why a calmer way is needed. Not the way of force, not the way of control, not the way of shouting at yourself from the inside. The calmer way is to let the mind be seen without letting it lead. A thought appears, you notice it, you do not follow it into a long road. A memory appears, you notice it, you do not turn it into a trial. A fear appears, you notice it, you do not make it the ruler of the night. You let it be present for a moment, and then you let attention return to something simple. The breath, the body, the weight of the head on the pillow, the feeling of the hands resting, the quiet rise and fall of the chest. This return is not a failure. This return is the practice. Each time the mind moves away and you gently return, you are training the mind. You are teaching it that not every thought must become a journey. You are teaching it that awareness can be softer than reaction. You are teaching it that peace does not come from winning against the mind, but from no longer fighting with it. The Dhammapada's wisdom is strong because it understands the mind as restless but also trainable. Restless does not mean hopeless. Restless does not mean bad. Restless means moving. The mind moves toward what it fears. It moves toward what it wants. It moves toward what it has not finished. It moves toward what it has not understood. This is natural. But when you believe every movement, you become tired. When you chase every movement, you become lost. When you become angry at every movement, you create more movement. So the practice becomes gentle awareness. You are not trying to break the mind. You are learning to sit beside it. You are learning to watch the waves without jumping into every wave. You are learning to let thoughts come and go without making them your whole world. This is especially important at night because the night can make thoughts feel more serious. In darkness, the mind has fewer distractions. In silence, the mind can hear itself more clearly. In tiredness, the heart becomes more open. A thought that felt small at noon can feel deep at midnight. A problem that could wait during the day can feel urgent before sleep. A memory that was quiet in the morning can become sharp in the dark. This is not because the thought has suddenly become more true. It is because the mind is tired. The body is ready to rest. The nervous system wants safety, and when safety is not felt inside, the mind begins searching. It searches for what went wrong. It searches for what could go wrong. It searches for an answer that might make everything feel settled. But some answers do not come at night. Some answers need morning. Some answers need time. Some answers need a calmer body, and some thoughts do not need an answer at all. They only need to be allowed to pass. This is a lesser-known truth about overthinking. Much of it is not real problem solving. It feels like solving, but often it is only circling. The mind repeats the same few points again and again. It returns to the same fear. It reopens the same question. It checks the same memory. It tries to create certainty where certainty is not possible tonight. And because it never reaches a final answer, it keeps moving. This is why forcing the mind to stop does not work. Force becomes part of the circle. Now the mind is not only thinking about the problem. It is thinking about thinking. It is worrying about worrying. It is judging itself for not being calm. The deeper path is to step out of the circle by seeing it. When the mind says, "We must solve this now," you can notice that pressure. When the mind says, "This thought is dangerous," you can notice that fear. When the mind says, "Keep going, keep checking, keep replaying," you can notice the habit. And then without anger, you can return. This kind of return is quiet strength. It does not need drama. It does not need a big promise. It does not need perfect focus. It only asks for one soft movement back to the present. The breath is here. The body is here. The night is here. The thought is passing. This simple rhythm can slowly change your relationship with the mind. Thoughts begin to lose their sharp edges when they are not fed. Memories begin to lose their grip when they are not turned into identity. Worries begin to lose their power when they are noticed instead of obeyed. And once you stop fighting every thought, you begin to see what thoughts really are. They are not always commands. They are not always truths. They are not always signs that something must be done. Many thoughts are visitors. They arrive because the mind is alive. They pass because nothing in the mind stays forever unless it is held again and again. But the mind often makes thoughts feel personal. This is one of its deepest tricks. A sad thought comes and the mind says, "I am sad." A fearful thought comes and the mind says, "I am unsafe." A regret comes and the mind says, "I am broken." A lonely thought comes and the mind says, "I will always be alone." A memory of failure comes and the mind says, "This is who I am." This is where suffering becomes heavier. The thought appears for a moment, but the mind turns it into an identity. It takes a passing cloud and calls it the whole sky. It takes one wave and calls it the whole ocean. It takes one feeling and calls it the truth of your life. Before sleep, this can become very painful because the mind is tired and less able to question itself. It believes quickly. It holds tightly. It makes strong meanings out of temporary states. But a thought is not the whole self. A feeling is not the whole life. A memory is not the whole person. A fear is not a prophecy. A regret is not a final judgment. These are movements inside awareness. They are real as experiences, but they are not the complete truth of who you are. This difference matters. When sadness appears, it may feel heavy, but it is still something being noticed. When fear appears, it may feel strong, but it is still something passing through awareness. When regret appears, it may feel sharp, but it is still not the whole of you. There is a part of you that notices sadness. There is a part of you that notices fear. There is a part of you that notices regret. That noticing part is quieter than thought. It does not need to speak loudly. It does not need to prove itself. It is simply aware. And when you learn to rest in that awareness, the thoughts lose some of their power to define you. You are not every worry that arrives at night. You are not every memory that comes back when the room is quiet. You are not every fear that knocks on the door of the mind. You are the quiet space that notices those things. This does not mean you deny your pain. It does not mean you pretend nothing hurts. It does not mean you push away honest emotions. It means you stop confusing the visitor with the home. A thought may visit, but it does not own you. A memory may visit, but it does not become your whole life. A fear may visit, but it does not become your master. This is a gentle but powerful shift. At first the mind may resist it. The mind may say, no, this thought is important. The mind may say, this fear is real. The mind may say, this regret proves something about you. But you do not need to argue with the mind. Arguing creates more thought. You simply notice again. Thinking is here. Fear is here. Remembering is here. Regret is here. You name it softly, not to control it, but to create space around it. Naming a thought can make it less confusing. When you say, this is worry, you are no longer completely lost inside worry. When you say, this is remembering, you are no longer trapped inside the memory. When you say, this is planning, you are no longer forced to believe that the plan must be finished tonight. This is not cold, this is kind. It gives the mind a way to be seen without being followed. It gives the heart a way to feel without drowning. It gives the body a chance to rest, even while thoughts still come and go. A thought can pass through awareness the way a sound passes through a quiet room. The sound appears, it is heard, then it fades. You do not need to chase it down the street. You do not need to hold it in your hands. You do not need to ask why it came. You can let it pass. Thoughts are similar. They appear in the mind. They are noticed. Then, if they are not fed with more thinking, they often begin to fade. But when a thought is held, repeated, judged, feared, or believed without question, it grows. It becomes heavier because attention gives it weight. This is why the mind can make one small thought feel huge at night. It is not always the thought itself. It is the attention wrapped around it. It is the meaning added to it. It is the fear that says, if I do not solve this now, I will not be safe. But rest asks for a different kind of trust. Rest asks you to let some things remain unfinished for now. Rest asks you to stop using the night as a courtroom. Rest asks you to stop putting your whole life on trial when your body is asking for sleep. This does not mean ignoring real responsibilities. It means understanding timing. Some things can be faced better after rest. Some choices can be made with a clearer mind in the morning. Some pain can be held more gently when the body is not exhausted. The mind often believes that thinking longer will make life safer. But sometimes thinking longer only makes the body more tense. Sometimes the kindest thing is not to think more. It is to release the demand that everything be answered tonight. This is why the teaching to let thoughts pass is not weak. It is not avoidance, it is wisdom. It is knowing that not every inner movement deserves the same response. Some thoughts need action later. Some thoughts need care. Some thoughts need writing down in the morning. Some thoughts need a real conversation. But many thoughts at night are only the mind clearing its own noise. They rise because the day was full. They rise because the heart is tired. They rise because silence gives them space. And if you meet each one as an emergency, the night becomes endless. But if you meet them as visitors, the night becomes softer. The mind can still move, but you do not have to move with every thought. The heart can still feel, but you do not have to become every feeling. The past can still appear, but you do not have to return and live there again. This is the hidden freedom. The mind may bring an old conversation. It may show you a face. It may repeat a sentence. It may ask why. It may ask what if. It may ask what now. But you can remain here. You can feel the bed beneath you. You can feel the breath moving slowly. You can let the thought be present without giving it the whole night. You can say inside, this is a thought. This is not my entire life. This is a memory. This is not my whole identity. This is a worry. This is not a command. This is fear. This is not the future. The more gently you practice this, the more the mind learns. It learns that sleep is not the time to chase every shadow. It learns that awareness can hold thoughts without becoming trapped. It learns that calm does not require emptiness. Calm can exist even when a thought is passing through. This is important because many people wait for the mind to become perfectly silent before they allow themselves to rest. They believe sleep will come only when every thought is gone. But sleep often comes when the relationship with thought changes. The mind may still whisper, but you stop answering every whisper. The mind may still offer a worry, but you stop building a house inside it. The mind may still bring a memory, but you let it drift instead of turning it into a story. This is how the chain weakens. One thought appears. Then, instead of pulling another thought, it is seen. Instead of becoming a path, it becomes a passing movement. Instead of becoming a battle, it becomes a moment of awareness. Then the breath returns. Then the body softens. Then the heart has a little more room. Not because the mind was defeated, but because it was no longer being followed without question. This is the difference between being lost in thought and being aware of thought. When you are lost in thought, the thought becomes the whole world. When you are aware of thought, the thought becomes one small thing inside a larger space. That larger space is always closer than it seems. It is present when you notice the breath. It is present when you feel the body resting. It is present when you hear the silence around you. It is present when you realize that a thought is moving, and you are the one who knows it is moving. This knowing does not need to be dramatic. It can be very quiet. It can be as simple as, the mind is thinking, the mind is remembering, the mind is planning, the mind is afraid. And then gently return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the darkness of the room. Return to the fact that this moment does not require you to solve your whole life. The Dhammapada's focus on the mind becomes deeply useful here because it reminds us that the quality of attention matters. A mind that chases every thought becomes tired. A mind that fights every thought becomes tense. But a mind that observes begins to understand its own movement. Understanding brings softness. Softness allows rest. Rest allows healing. This is not instant. It is not perfect. Some nights will still feel difficult. Some thoughts will still feel strong. Some memories will still pull at the heart. But even on those nights, the practice remains the same. Notice the movement. Do not become trapped in the chain. Do not force silence. Let observation be enough for this moment. A thought appears. It is seen. It is allowed. It is not followed. Another thought appears. It is seen. It is allowed. It is not followed. The breath returns. The body rests again. This may happen many times. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are practicing. The mind has spent years learning to chase. It may take time to learn how to release. Be patient with it. Be patient with yourself. The mind is not your enemy. It is only restless. It is only trying to finish what it cannot finish tonight. It is only trying to protect you with the tools it knows. But you can teach it a softer way. You can show it that safety does not always come from more thinking. Sometimes safety comes from letting the body rest. Sometimes clarity comes after sleep, not before it. Sometimes peace begins when the mind realizes it does not have to hold every unfinished thing in the dark. And as this understanding grows, your thoughts begin to feel less like commands and more like weather. Some are heavy, some are light. Some pass quickly, some stay longer. But none of them are the sky itself. You are not the storm that moves through the mind. You are the open space that can notice the storm. You are not the regret that appears at midnight. You are the awareness that sees regret appear and fade. You are not the fear that arrives before sleep. You are the quiet presence that knows fear is here. This does not remove all pain at once, but it changes the way pain is held. It gives the heart room to breathe. It gives the mind permission to stop gripping so tightly. It gives the body a chance to remember that this moment is not the whole story. Tonight, when thoughts rise, they do not need to become enemies. They do not need to become proof that you are weak. Thoughts are not failures. They are movements of the mind. They are signs that the mind is active, not signs that you are broken. The practice is not to never think. The practice is to stop becoming every thought. The practice is to see the chain before it carries you too far. The practice is to let the mind move without giving every movement your identity. A sad thought can come, and you can feel it without becoming only sadness. A fearful thought can come, and you can notice it without becoming only fear. A regret can come, and you can learn from it without becoming only regret. This is how distance from mental noise begins, not by pushing the mind away, but by standing a little deeper inside awareness. The mind speaks, awareness listens. The mind moves, awareness notices. The mind brings images, worries, and memories. Awareness gives them space to pass, and slowly the night becomes less like a battlefield and more like a quiet room again. The body does not need to wait for perfect silence. It only needs less resistance. The heart does not need to solve every emotion. It only needs to stop being pulled into every story. The mind does not need to be punished. It only needs to be understood. When a thought comes, let it come. When it stays, notice that it is staying. When it begins to fade, let it fade. Do not reach for it again just because it feels familiar. Do not rebuild the chain after it has started to loosen. Let one thought be one thought. Let one memory be one memory. Let one worry be one worry. Do not let it gather the whole night around itself. This is how sleep becomes possible again, not by force, not by fear, not by control, but by gentle awareness repeated again and again. The mind moves before you notice it, but with practice you begin to notice sooner. You notice the first link in the chain. You notice the moment worry tries to become a story. You notice the moment regret tries to become identity. You notice the moment fear tries to become the future. And in that noticing, you do not have to follow. You can return. You can rest. You can let the thought pass through the space of awareness without becoming the one who must carry it. And once you stop fighting every thought, you begin to see thoughts more clearly. They rise, they change, they fade. They are not solid, they are not permanent, they are not always wise, they are not always worth obeying. Some are useful, some are painful, some are old, some are empty, some are only the echo of a tired mind. But none of them are the whole of you. You are not every worry, you are not every memory, you are not every fear that arrives at night. You are the quiet space that notices those things, and when this becomes clear, the mind starts to soften. Some thoughts stay awake inside you not because they are important, but because you keep giving them food. This is one of the quietest truths about the mind at night. A thought can appear for 1 second, but attention can keep it alive for an hour. A memory can rise softly, but the mind can turn it into a full story. A worry can pass through like a small shadow, but if you follow it, question it, feed it, and believe it, it begins to grow. This is why the night can feel so heavy for a tired mind. The thought itself may not be strong at first. It becomes strong because you keep returning to it. You replay the conversation. You check what you should have said. You imagine the look on someone's face. You think of the words that came too late. You build a better answer in your mind. Then you rebuild it again. Then you ask why you did not say it that way before. Then the mind moves deeper. It starts to judge you. It starts to blame you. It starts to create a version of the past where you are stuck, powerless, and unable to change anything. The body is lying in bed, but the mind is standing in an old moment, trying to repair what cannot be repaired tonight. This is how sleep gets pushed away, not because rest is far from you, but because the mind is still holding something that needs to be placed down. Many people believe they are thinking because the thought is urgent, but many times the thought only feels urgent because it has been fed again and again. The mind has repeated it so many times that it begins to feel like a duty. It says, think about this one more time, check it one more time, solve it one more time, go back one more time. But each time you go back, the mind learns that this thought deserves more attention. It learns that this thought is important enough to steal the night. And slowly the mind begins to treat every unfinished thing like a fire that must be put out before sleep is allowed to come. This is why bedtime becomes painful. Bedtime becomes the place where the past asks for repair, the future asks for control, and the heart asks questions that may not have answers. But bedtime is not the place to fix every past moment. It is not the place to control every future outcome. It is not the place to judge your whole life with a tired mind and a restless heart. The night was never meant to become a courtroom. It was never meant to become a place where every mistake is brought back and every fear is given a voice. The night was meant to become a doorway into rest. But the mind often stands at that doorway carrying too many unfinished things. It carries the message you did not send. It carries the apology you never received. It carries the answer you wish you gave. It carries the decision you are afraid to make. It carries tomorrow's problem, as if thinking about it tonight will protect you from pain. And sometimes the mind does this because it is trying to help. It thinks that if it keeps working, you will be safer. It thinks that if it keeps planning, you will not be surprised. It thinks that if it keeps replaying, you will finally understand. But a tired mind does not always understand more by thinking more. Sometimes it only becomes more tangled. Sometimes it makes the same fear larger. Sometimes it turns a small concern into a whole world. Sometimes it takes one question and opens 10 more. This is where the wisdom of release becomes important. Release does not mean life does not matter. It does not mean your pain is fake. It does not mean your responsibilities should be ignored. It does not mean your emotions should be pushed away. Release means you understand that the peace also matters. Rest also matters. The body also matters. The mind cannot carry every unfinished thing every night and still expect to wake with clarity. Sleep requires trust. Not trust that everything is perfect. Not trust that every problem is solved. Not trust that tomorrow will bring no difficulty. Sleep requires a quieter kind of trust. The trust to say, this cannot be finished tonight, and I do not need to carry it until morning. The trust to say, this thought may return later, but I do not need to follow it now. The trust to say, this worry feels loud, but loud does not always mean true. The trust to say, I can put this down for now without betraying myself. At some point, the mind must be allowed to put down what it cannot finish. At some point, the heart must be allowed to stop answering every question. At some point, the body must be allowed to become heavy without the mind pulling it back into old pain. And this is where letting go becomes more than a beautiful idea. It becomes a practice. It becomes something you do quietly, again and again, in the small moments when a thought tries to pull you away. Letting go is not always a big moment. It is often very small. It is the moment when the thought appears and you choose not to chase it. It is the moment when the memory returns and you choose not to rebuild the whole scene. It is the moment when worry rises and you choose not to turn it into a decision tonight. It is the moment when regret comes and you choose not to punish yourself until morning. Letting go does not mean the thought disappears immediately. Sometimes it stays, sometimes it comes back, sometimes it knocks again and again. But the practice is not to make it vanish by force. The practice is to stop feeding it. A thought is like a small flame. Attention can become oil. Repetition can become wind. Fear can make it burn brighter. But when you stop adding fuel, the flame begins to weaken in its own time. This is why the gentle method matters. When a thought appears, do not chase it. Do not grab it. Do not open every door behind it. Do not ask where it came from and where it will go and what it means about you. Just notice it. Name it softly. Thinking, remembering, planning, worrying, regretting. Use simple words, because the mind does not need a long speech at night. The mind needs a soft mirror. When you say thinking, you are no longer fully inside the thought. You are seeing it. When you say remembering, you are no longer fully inside the past. You are noticing that the past has appeared. When you say planning, you are no longer trapped inside tomorrow. You are noticing that the mind is reaching forward. When you say worrying, You are no longer becoming the worry. You are noticing that fear has taken a shape. When you say regretting, you are no longer turning regret into your whole identity. You are noticing that regret is moving through you. This simple naming creates space. It does not make you cold. It does not make you distant from your own heart. It gives your heart room to breathe. It gives the mind a way to be seen without being obeyed. Then, after naming the thought, return to the breath. Not with pressure, not with frustration, not with the feeling that you have failed because thinking happened again. Just return. Feel one breath enter. Feel one breath leave. Let the chest rise. Let the body soften. Let the shoulders drop. Let the face loosen. Let the tongue rest. Let the hands become quiet. The breath is not a task you must complete. It is a home you can come back to. The breath does not judge you for leaving. It is still there when you return. This is how the mind is trained, not by punishment, not by force, not by violence against yourself, but by returning. Again and again, a thought comes and you return. A memory comes and you return. A worry comes and you return. The mind wanders and you return. The mind pulls you into a story, and when you notice, you return. This return is not small. It may look small, but inside it is a deep act of freedom. Every return tells the mind, we do not need to follow this tonight. Every return tells the heart, we are safe enough to rest. Every return tells the body, you do not have to stay tense for a problem that cannot be solved in this moment. Every return weakens the chain, and slowly the night changes. Not always quickly, not always dramatically, but slowly, like a room becoming darker after a lamp is lowered. The thoughts may still come, but they begin to lose their power to control the whole night. They may still rise, but they do not always become stories. They may still speak, but you do not always answer. This is peace in a very real form. Peace before sleep does not mean the mind becomes empty. This is a mistake many people make. They wait for complete silence before they allow themselves to rest. They think peace means no thoughts, no memories, no worries, no feelings, no movement inside. But the mind is alive, it moves, it remembers, it plans, it tries to protect, it tries to understand. Peace does not mean the mind stops being alive. Peace means the mind becomes less sticky. A sticky mind holds everything. It holds a sentence from the morning. It holds a fear about next week. It holds a look someone gave. It holds an old regret. It holds a mistake and presses it against the heart until the heart feels tired. A softer mind allows things to come and go. Thoughts still appear, but they do not stay glued to the whole night. They rise like clouds. They move like wind. They fade when they are not held. This is the kind of peace that can meet real life. It does not require a perfect mind. It does not require a perfect past. It does not require a perfect tomorrow. It only asks you to stop arguing with every movement inside you. Arguing with the mind keeps the mind awake. A thought comes and you say, why am I thinking this? Another thought comes and you say, I should not feel this. A worry comes and you say, I must stop this now. A memory comes and you say, this should be gone by now. But each argument becomes another thought. Each resistance becomes another layer. Now you are not only thinking, you are thinking about thinking. You are not only worrying, you are worrying about worrying. You are not only remembering, you are judging yourself for remembering. This creates more movement, not less. Peace begins when you stop fighting the fact that the mind is moving. You can let the mind move without letting it lead. You can let a thought appear without treating it like a command. You can let a memory rise without turning it into a punishment. You can let a worry pass through without making it the ruler of the night. There is a quiet power in this. It is not loud. It does not look like control. It looks like trust. It sounds like a soft inner voice that says, yes, this thought is here, but I do not need to follow it into the dark. Yes, this worry is here, but I do not need to solve it from inside exhaustion. Yes, this memory is here, but I do not need to live inside it again. Yes, this regret is here, but I do not need to become it. When this begins to happen, rest becomes possible in a different way. It is no longer something you demand from the mind. It becomes something you allow through the body. You let the body become heavy. You let the breath become simple. You let the eyes rest behind closed lids. You let the room be quiet without asking the mind to explain the silence. You let unfinished things wait. This is difficult for people who have spent years surviving through control. Some minds believe that if they stop thinking, something will go wrong. They believe that if they stop planning, they will be unprepared. They believe that if they stop replaying, they will miss the lesson. They believe that if they stop worrying, they are being careless. But worry is not the same as wisdom. Replaying is not the same as healing. Planning at midnight is not always the same as preparation. Sometimes the mind calls it responsibility when it is really fear. Sometimes the mind calls it problem solving when it is only circling the same pain. Sometimes the mind says, keep going, when the deeper truth is, rest now. This is why letting thoughts pass is not weakness. It is not laziness. It is not running away from life. It is a form of deep intelligence. It is knowing the difference between a thought that needs action and a thought that only needs space. It is knowing the difference between a problem that can be solved now and a problem that becomes heavier when touched by a tired mind. It is knowing the difference between care and control. You can care about tomorrow without trying to live it tonight. You can care about the past without dragging it into bed every evening. You can care about your life without forcing your mind to hold every part of it at once. This is where the Dhammapada's wisdom becomes gentle and practical. It points the mind back to itself. It asks the mind to see its own movement. It reminds us that the mind can create suffering when it clings, and it can create peace when it releases. But release is not done once. It is repeated. You may let one thought pass and another arrives. You may return to the breath and then the mind moves again. You may feel calm for a moment and then a new worry appears. This does not mean the practice has failed. This is the practice. Let one thought rise. Let one thought pass. Let another rise. Let another pass. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the simple truth that this moment does not need to hold every moment. The mind may say, but this matters, and maybe it does. The mind may say, but this is serious, and maybe it is. The mind may say, but this needs attention, and maybe it will need attention tomorrow. But tonight the question is different. The question is not, does this matter? The question is, can this be solved right now, in the dark, with a tired body and a restless mind? If not, then the kindest answer is not more thinking. The kindest answer is to place it down. You can place it down gently without hatred. You can say inside, not now. You can say morning can hold this better than midnight. You can say, I do not need to carry this through my sleep. This is a powerful sentence for the mind because it does not reject the thought. It simply gives it a place, not now. Later if needed, not tonight. The mind may test this. It may bring the same thought again. Then you return again, not now. Breathing, resting, letting pass. The mind may bring the same memory. Then you return again, remembering, breathing, letting pass. The mind may bring fear. Then you return again, worrying, breathing, letting pass. Over time, the mind begins to understand through repetition. It does not learn only from one peaceful moment. It learns from many small returns. It learns from the way you stop feeding the chain. It learns from the way you stop treating every thought as an order. It learns from the way you return to the breath without anger. And slowly the night changes. The silence no longer feels like an empty space for fear. It begins to feel like a place where thoughts can pass through and disappear. The darkness no longer feels like a place where old pain grows stronger. It begins to feel like a soft cover around the body. The breath no longer feels like a technique. It becomes a quiet companion. The body no longer feels like something waiting for permission to sleep. It begins to receive the message that the mind is no longer fighting every shadow. This is how rest begins. Not when every thought is finished, but when the mind stops demanding that every thought must be finished. So many people delay peace because they believe they must understand everything first. They must understand why someone acted that way. They must understand why the past happened. They must understand what tomorrow will bring. They must understand why they feel this way. They must understand every fear before they can rest. But the deepest wisdom does not always come from one more answer. Sometimes it comes from the courage to rest without one. Sometimes the answer appears only after the mind has slept. Sometimes the heart understands more in quiet than it does in force. Sometimes the body needs peace before the mind can see clearly. This is why the thought must be allowed to pass, not because it is meaningless, but because it is temporary. A thought can feel large and still be temporary. A worry can feel urgent and still be temporary. A memory can feel painful and still be temporary. A fear can feel convincing and still be temporary. The mind often forgets this at night. It treats a passing thought as if it will last forever. It treats a mood as if it is the truth. It treats a fear as if it is a warning from the future. But thoughts rise and fall. Feelings rise and fall. Inner weather changes. What feels unbearable at midnight may feel smaller after rest. What feels confusing in the dark may feel clearer in the morning. What feels like a command tonight may look like only a thought tomorrow. So let your thoughts pass. Let them pass without needing to chase everyone. Let them pass without turning each one into a story. Let them pass without making each one a measure of who you are. You do not have to fight them. Fighting gives them weight. You do not have to fear them. Fear gives them a throne. You do not have to follow them into the dark. Following gives them your whole night. Let them come as movements of the mind. Let them be known. Let them be named. Let them move on. Thinking, remembering, planning, worrying, regretting, breathing, returning, resting. This rhythm is simple, and because it is simple, the mind can learn it. It does not need force. It needs repetition. It needs patience. It needs kindness. The mind has spent years learning to hold. It may take time to learn how to release. Do not turn the practice into another reason to judge yourself. If the thought returns many times, return many times. If the mind wanders often, come back often. If worry rises again, notice it again. Each return is a small act of freedom. Each return tells the mind, we are not walking that road tonight. Each return makes the chain weaker. Each return opens a little more space around the thought, and in that space the body remembers how to rest. The face softens, the jaw loosens, the shoulders drop, the breath slows, the hands become still. The chest does not need to hold the whole world. The belly does not need to tighten around tomorrow. The eyes do not need to search behind closed lids. The body begins to understand what the mind is slowly learning. Not everything must be carried now. Not everything must be answered now. Not everything must be controlled now. Some things can wait. Some things can soften. Some things can pass. Let tonight be a place where you stop using thought as a rope to pull the past closer. Let tonight be a place where you stop using thought as a net to catch the future. Let tonight be a place where you stop asking the tired mind to become judge, protector, planner, and healer all at once. Let the mind have one simple task. Notice and return. Notice and return. Notice and return. The thought rises. Let it rise. The thought stays. Let it be seen. The thought fades. Let it fade. Do not reach for it again just because the mind is used to holding it. Do not rebuild the pain just because silence feels unfamiliar. Do not turn the quiet into another problem. Let quiet be quiet. Let breath be breath. Let the body be heavy. Let the mind slowly learn that peace is not found by gripping harder. Peace comes when the grip loosens. This is the heart of letting thoughts pass. It is not a command to become empty. It is an invitation to become free from the need to follow every inner sound. The mind may still whisper. Let it whisper. The past may still knock. Let it knock without opening every door. Tomorrow may still call. Let it wait at a distance. You are here now. This breath is here now. This body is here now. This night is here now. And this moment does not demand your whole life. It only asks you to stop turning passing thoughts into permanent homes. It only asks you to allow what rises to also fall. It only asks you to trust that the unfinished things do not need to sleep inside your chest. They can wait outside the door of the morning. And when morning comes, some of them may still need care. Some of them may need action. Some of them may need a real answer. But many of them will have lost their sharpness because they were never as solid as they felt in the dark. They were thoughts, they were movements, they were clouds passing across awareness, and you were never required to become the cloud. You were the space that noticed it. Tonight, let that space remain open. Let your thoughts pass through it without closing around them. Let the mind be gentle. Let the breath be simple. Let the body become heavy. Let the unfinished things wait until morning. Because sometimes the deepest wisdom is not finding one more answer. Sometimes it is allowing the mind to rest without one. As this video comes to an end, let this one thought stay with you gently. You do not have to fight every thought that comes into your mind. You do not have to follow every worry into the dark. You do not have to solve every memory before you are allowed to rest. Some thoughts are only passing through. Some fears are only echoes. Some regrets are only old shadows asking for attention one more time. Tonight you can let them rise. Let them be seen and let them pass. Let your breath become simple. Let your body become heavy. Let the unfinished things wait until morning. Because peace does not always come from finding one more answer. Sometimes peace comes when you stop demanding an answer from a tired mind. If this video helped your mind feel a little quieter tonight, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what kind of thought is hardest for you to let pass. Your words may help someone else realize they are not alone in their restless nights. Subscribe to the channel for more calm, deep, and peaceful reflections that help you slow down, let go, and return to yourself. Like this video if it brought you peace, and share it with someone whose mind becomes loud when the world becomes quiet. Because sometimes one gentle reminder is enough to help someone stop fighting their thoughts and finally begin resting again.